Live to Louise Beale at Buckingham Palace. Louise, there's still crowds of people gathered at Buckingham Palace. What sort of reception did King Charles receive?
Well, he arrived here at around about lunchtime with Camilla, his Queen consort, and he got a very warm reception indeed. They spent quite a fair amount of time walking around in front of the gates of Buckingham Palace, meeting people and looking at the hundreds, if not thousands, of floral tributes that have been left, many accompanied with a card that is thanking the Queen for her service, many simply just saying thank you. But that is the theme amongst them all. People were singing God Save the King, and also in a moment that I thought was quite lovely, one of his security guards asked people in the crowd to stop taking photos, and not for any security reason, but just because he was urging them to say, you know, savour this moment. It's a moment in history, rather than taking photos all the time. But there were some really exuberant people in the crowd who were hugging and kissing King Charles, which goes against normal royal protocol. And you can see and hear now from some of those people that came to greet him.
It's kind of a moment in history, isn't it? It's a very special thing that's happening today with the King coming back to Buckingham Palace.
Yeah. Quite strange. When he first went past, it was silent, and then it was like, no, he's here. And then God Save the King, and started singing the national anthem under God Save the King again. So it was a nice atmosphere, the whole thing.
We saw him sitting in the car, the first car passing by. Really emotional, especially everyone screaming God Save the King, which still is really new to me, but yeah, really impressive and really emotional moment.
My parents have never seen anyone other than this. My grandparents never saw anyone other than, Her Majesty. Just, when you're in London, you've got to be a part of an occasion this big.
We saw a small snapshot of the King's address. It really was brilliant.
It really was, and it was very emotional. He referred to the Queen as his darling mama. He talked about Camilla, his wife, and how she was supporting him, and he crucially devoted his life to service, just like his mother had done before him. We also learnt that William and Catherine will become the new Prince and Princess of Wales, and King Charles also made special mention to Prince Harry and to Meghan, and mentioned how much that he loved them, and that was quite a poignant moment as well. It comes after, as you were mentioning earlier, he started some of his official duties, one of which was meeting our new and his Prime Minister, Liz Truss. They had a meeting earlier. She had been speaking in the House of Commons here in the UK, paying tribute to the Queen, along with many other MPs who were all gathered for that express purpose. And one of those other MPs was someone we're all very familiar with, Boris Johnson, who also made a very heartfelt tribute, talking about how when he'd been asked to record some of his memories of the Queen by the BBC, he'd actually had to stop because he became so emotional, and stop and do it again another time. He also told a brilliant story about the Queen, about how when he'd been invited to Balmoral in Scotland in previous times, how he said that the Queen didn't stand on ceremony, unlike, he said, politicians who have armoured vehicles and security. She used to drive herself everywhere without a driver, without any security, and he said that she used to drive at quite a frightening speed over the bumpy roads of Scotland, and that he'd witnessed that firsthand. So it was lovely to hear some of those tributes from some of the members of her government that she did have a very close relationship with.
And we'll show the full address of King Charles III shortly on our program, Louise, but what happens next?
Good question. Well, Charles is officially proclaimed king tomorrow, and all the flags that are currently at half-mast here in the UK will be raised to full-mast just for 24 hours in recognition of that, because it is a celebration. And then on Sunday, the Queen's body will be moved to Edinburgh, to Holyrood Palace, where she will lie in state for 24 hours before her body is then brought down here to London, where she will lie in state for 4 days, and people will be able to come and pay tribute. And that's all ahead, of course, of the state funeral that will come some days after that.
Thank you, Louise.